You're listening to the weekly parsha podcast with Ari Goldwag, recorded with Hashem's never-ending assistance in Ramah Shemesh Israel 5777, 2017. I'd like to remind you about my Sefer, Perfectly Imperfect, Breaking Out of the Ordinary and Striving for Greatness, available in Swarm stores near you. This week's parsha is Parsha Shoftim, and in our parsha this week, I'd like to share with you a thought based on the medrash and also a Gemara, and it has to do with the concept of Shoftim v'Shoitrim, that Hashem commands us. Moshe Rabbeinu relays the command of Hashem to us to make sure that we have judges and that we have laws, and laws are kept, laws are enforced. We have dinim and we have batei dinim, we have courts that enforce those laws and make sure that righteousness and justice is being enforced amongst the Jewish people, and that things are fair, and that if there's a dispute between people, they have to whom to go in order that their dispute should be resolved. And the medrash says beautifully an amazing thing, and it reminded me, we'll soon see, it reminded me of a Gemara that's similar but has a slightly different take on the concept, and we'll see what is the difference, why the Gemara puts it this way, why does the medrash put it this way. So listen carefully. Zeh Shomer HaKosuf. The medrash tells us that when the Torah describes the obligation to set up courts, a court system, judges, and everything, that all is to be done correctly and responsibly, so there's a reference to this concept of the importance of this idea. In the pasuk in Mishlei in Proverbs chapter 21 verse 3, it says like this: Aseh tzedakah u'mishpat, or Aseh tzedakah u'mishpat nivchar la'Hashem izovach. Somebody who does charity and justice, someone who's involved in justice and tzedakah, so it's more precious to Hashem. It's chosen to Hashem. It's something that Hashem loves more than a sacrifice, more than a korban. The medrash points out, it doesn't say that it's equal to a sacrifice, that it's on the same level as a sacrifice. It says that it's greater than a sacrifice. What is the idea? How do we see, in which ways do we see that a korban, a sacrifice which is brought in the temple or in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle, that's something that Hashem loves, it's something that Hashem asks for, it's something precious. But where do we see, and in what ways is charity and judgment, justice, something which is greater? The sacrifices were only able to be brought in the Beis Hamikdash, in the temple, in one place. When it comes to charity, that's something that can be done in a temple, and it's something that can be done outside of the temple. Anywhere it's possible to give charity. And when it comes to justice, when it comes to batei dinim, when it comes to having a court system and making sure that things are proper and just, so that's something that indeed was done in the Beis Hamikdash. We had the Sanhedrin who sat on the Har HaBayis, on the Temple Mount. But there were also batei dinim, there were also courts throughout the land of Israel. So that's the first place that we see it. Davar acher. Another example. We find that when it comes to korbanos, when it comes to sacrifices, so the sacrifices can only be machaper, they can only atone for somebody if they've done a sin by accident, if it wasn't done on purpose. And the charity, and a person coming to a court, even if a person receives a negative judgment, but the fact that he comes to court in order to resolve what's going on, so a person has an opportunity to get a kapar, to get an atonement, whether the thing that he's done wrong was done by accident or even if he's done it intentionally. It's possible to get a kapara through the judgment of the court. Davar acher, Another way we see that korbanos, that the sacrifices are not as great, that when it comes to sacrifices, a sacrifice is something that can be brought in this world. It can only benefit a person in this world. But when it comes to charity and when it comes to judgment, it's something that is shaykh, that can pertain both to the lower realms and the upper realms. It's not clear to me exactly what this is referring to, but perhaps this is the next statement of the medrash is an explanation of it. Davar acher, another explanation. HaKarbanos einagim ela b'adam hazeh, v'atzdaka That when it comes to sacrifices, that's something that can only be done in this world. But when it comes to charity, and when it comes to din, when it comes to justice, when it comes to these types of things, so that's something that we can speak about in this world and in the next world. And again, it's not so clear exactly how this applies in the next world. The Eitz Yosef says that that in the next world, so there's a concept of a person receiving their just reward, and there's a concept of a person receiving a punishment, and that's something that occurs in the next world. So we can have it in this world and in the next world. And I would add to that there's an aspect of kapara, there's an aspect of, like we mentioned already, but there's an aspect of atonement that occurs when a person, the purpose of Gehenna, the purpose of going to the fiery places that a person has to go to, heaven forbid, if he hasn't repented in this world. So the purpose of that is a kapara. It's to atone for his sins. It's not because Hashem is angry at him and he wants to show him, you know what I'm saying? It's to cleanse his soul of the mire that he's become engulfed in being involved in sin in this world. So that's something, justice can help a person in the next world. Also tzedakah, we have to understand how charity, but perhaps when a person does, let's say a person gives charity in this world, we find a person can give charity in this world on behalf of somebody who's in the next world, someone who's already passed away. It's possible to give charity, and it could be a merit for them, according to many opinions. So it's possible that charity can help in this world for somebody in the next world, but a korban cannot help a person who's no longer in this world. Now, here's where we get to really an awesome piece in the medrash, which parallels the Gemara. It's Gemara in Makis also, very similar Gemara. And it's just an amazing conversation between David HaMelech, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu and God. Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani said, "B'shasham HaKadosh Baruch Hu lenasan." So King David, he had this tremendous desire. He wanted to build a Beis Hamikdash. He wanted to be the one who would build that temple, that place, that house for God, so to speak. Until that time, for many hundreds of years, so Hashem, God, His presence was manifested in the Mishkan, in an impermanent structure, in a tabernacle. As long as they were in the wilderness, so it was a moving structure. It would be set down, obviously, for a time, but it would move. And then there were periods of time where the Jewish people had that tabernacle in different places. It was in Shiloh. It was in different locations. And so King David wanted to build a temple. He wanted to build a Beis Hamikdash, a place where Hashem would be able to rest His spirit. Hashem would be able to receive korbanos, so the Jewish people would be able to interact with God in that location. Unfortunately, he wasn't zeicha to this. Hashem said to Nathan Hanavi, to Nathan the prophet, Lech v'amarta al David Avdi. He said, go to King David, go to David my servant, Koyamar Hashem. This is what Hashem said, Lo yatot tivnei li habayis lashaves. You shall not be the one who's going to build this house for me to be able to sit in it, to dwell there. Ki lo yashavti b'bayis min hayoyim asher elisi Yisrael ad hayom hazeh. From the time that I brought the Jewish people out of Egypt until this very day, I haven't been in a house. I haven't been in a permanent structure. I was going from one place to another, from one tent to another. It was always a place that was impermanent. So that was Hashem's way of saying to King David, don't feel so bad. I've been in an impermanent structure until now. I'll continue to be. But King Solomon would be, Shlomo HaMelech, King David's son, would be the one who was going to build the Beis Hamikdash, but not David HaMelech. David was not privileged. He set down the foundations of the Beis Hamikdash. He found the location of Jerusalem, of the Har HaBayis, of the Temple Mount. But it was not to be that King David would actually build it. So now what happened at that point? Everybody knew that King David wanted to build the Beis Hamikdash. He wanted to build a temple, but he wasn't able to build a temple. So the result was, let's say there were people in that generation, they were like Tzanei Hador, they were the scoffers of the generation, who would want to make a jab at King David. They wanted to say something negative. They wanted to say something that was not so nice. They wanted to curse King David. So what would they say? They would say to King David, we are excited. We can't wait for the temple to be built. In other words, we can't wait until you die. That's what they would say. They wanted to say something to scoff at King David. So Now, an amazing thing. This is just beautiful. The amazing humility of David HaMelech, of King David, of a true Jewish leader. Teidalacha, ma David Omer. You should know, what does King David say? Samachti bi'omer li beis Hashem nelech. He knew what beis Hashem nelech meant. When people were saying, we want to go to the temple, they were saying, King David, we want to be rid of you. But King David had said an amazing thing. Samachti, he said, I would rejoice when I heard people saying that they want to go to the temple, that they want to be able to go in the temple, even though the implication was they want me to pass on, said King David. But I looked at the beauty of what they were saying. I loved the fact that they were excited. There was a piece of them that really wanted to have that Beis Hamikdash, that temple, so they could serve you properly. So, but in mentioning this to God, so he said, people are trying to say things negatively about me because I'm not going to build a Beis Hamikdash. This line is not exactly clear on exactly how it fits in well over here, but let's keep moving. So Hashem said to King David, Chayecha, I swear, I promise you, by your life, Shah achas mechayecha einani machaser. Don't think that because I'm going to wait until you pass on, Hashem says to King David. Don't think that therefore you're going to miss a single moment of your life. No. Every single moment that you were meant to have, you will have. How do we know? Shenemar, the verse tells us. Shmuel Beis, chapter 7, verse 12. Ki imlu yamecha. When your days will be filled, when you will complete your days, v'shachavtem avisecha, and you will sleep with your fathers, v'akimosi zaracha acharecha, and I will stand up your seed after you, that will come out of your innards, and I will cause his kingdom to be prepared. Hashem says to him like this, Hatzedakah v'adina. Here's where we come back to the concept that we were speaking about until now. The greatness of tzedakah, the greatness of charity, the greatness of mishpat, of justice. King David, as we'll soon see, was known for his charity and for his justice. And Hashem says to him, I want you to know, don't think you're going to miss out on a moment of your life. Don't think that I'm anxious to build a Beis Hamikdash and that's what I really want. Says Hashem, no. I am more interested in the tzedakah, the charity that you do, the mishpat, the justice that you cause the Jewish people to be able to have. I care about that. That's what you represent, King David. That's what's important to me. The charity and the justice that you do is more precious to me than the temple itself. Minayin. How do we know this? Shenemar. How do we know that this was King David's specialty, so to speak? Because the verse there in Shmuel Beis, in the 2 Samuel chapter 8, verse 15 says, Vahi David oiseh mishpat utzedakah. King David was somebody who was constantly doing judgment and charity. He was involved in getting justice for the Jewish people. He was involved in charity. Now, there's a parallel Gemara which really soon I'm going to get to. It's important for me to mention it. But just before we get to that, there's a few more lines in the medrash that are very interesting. Mahu mishpat tzedakah l'chol amai. What is this reference to the fact that he would do tzedakah and mishpat? He would do charity and he would do justice. What's the idea of King David's charity and justice, or really justice and charity? Rabbi Yehuda Rav Nachman. So we have an argument about this from the Amoraim. Or maybe they're Tanoim, not clear. Chanamar hayadan esadin. One says that what would happen was King David, he would judge the case. You go through the halacha. Based on the halacha, the final judgment is the one who is obligated to pay. This one has to pay. This one is the one who has to receive the money. King David, what he would do is, if he would see the person who he had said is obligated to give, the one who is obligated to give up his own money, so if he would see that person didn't have the money, didn't have the wherewithal to be able to pay off the money that he owed, so King David would give him money of his own. He would give charity. So he would be done. He would judge the case, and he would help the person who lost the case. If he needed money, he would help that person to be able to pay. Heavy mishpat tzedakah. That's according to Rabbi Yehuda. So Rav Nachman said to him, Im Kain, if that's correct, Nim Tseisam, maybe it's Yisrael de Remius. So if King David would do that, so the result would be that everyone would know that King David would do this kind of thing, and people would intentionally come to accuse the other one. They don't really owe anybody money. One would accuse the other one. They would have King David give one of them the money, and then they would end up splitting the money. So it can't be that that's what it means. So Rav Nachman says, what is the tzedakah mishpat of King David? Hayadanis hadin. So the tzedakah and mishpat was like this, that he would judge the case. The person who he found innocent would be found innocent. The person who was obligated to pay would pay. Heavy mishpat tzedakah. What he would do is, as the Eitz Yosef explains, what he would do is that he would show the people in such a clear way that this person is chayiv, this person is obligated to pay, and that this person is the one who is meant to receive the money. It would be so clear, and he would do it in such a sensitive way that the people who he was judging would actually be excited and happy to give up the money if they were obligated to give up the money, and obviously to receive the money if they were the ones who were to receive it. The point is that he would do it in a sensitive way, in a loving way, in an encouraging way, such that the people who received the negative judgment would agree that it was the right thing to do to give up that money. So that's the tzedakah, that's the charity, that he would give the people an opportunity to do the right thing in the right way. So Hashem says to the Jewish people, since you see that justice is so beloved to me, so important to me, so it's extremely important to be careful about judgments. That's what we see. Now, I found it amazing and remarkable, this Gemara. There's a few reasons, but just the amazing humility of King David, the beauty of his ability to, first of all, to bring justice to people, to give of himself, to give of the money that he had for the person who couldn't afford to pay off the money that was owed, or the ability that he had to show the people the truth of the judgment so that they would agree to give up that money. But the humility, the incredible humility of King David, that he was able, despite the fact that people were saying, we want that Beis HaMikdash to be built already, and they didn't mean it because they wanted the Beis HaMikdash, but rather they meant it as a curse to King David. But his humility was that he didn't see that part. He was able to bring out, I would even say, the part of their statement of, we want the Beis HaMikdash, we want the temple. Because he saw himself, his whole purpose, his whole desire was to build a temple. Why? For himself? No. It was so that the Jewish people would have a place to connect to God. So he saw, even in the negativity, even in the negative statements of others, and their statements which came to say something bad about King David, so he saw an opportunity to bring out the fact that they wanted to build the Beis HaMikdash, the fact that they wanted to serve Hashem in that Beis HaMikdash. Now, there's another Ma'amar Chazal, another place where our sages speak about this idea. Very similar Gemara. However, there's a slight difference, and I want to understand why the Gemara says it slightly differently. The Gemara says like this. Amar David. I'm sorry. V'amar Yishuv ben Levi, my dichsev. Rabbi Yishuv ben Levi says, this is Gemara in Makkas and Daf Yud, page 10a, on the bottom of the page. Rabbi Yishuv ben Levi said, what does it mean in the verse when it says, Shir Masa David, we have a song of ascents King David wrote, Samachti ba'amrim li beis Hashem nelech. King David said, and we quoted this verse already, I rejoiced when I heard people saying that they want to go to the house of God. Amar David lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. King David said in front of God, Ribono shel olam, Master of the world, Shemati b'nei Adam shayu oimrim masa yom zaken zeh. I've heard people saying, when will it be that this old man will die? He was referring to himself. V'yavish Shlomi b'noi, and his son Solomon will come. V'yivnei beis habechira v'na'ala l'regel. So he said, people are saying, when is he going to die? When is Solomon going to take over? So that we can come up to the Beis HaMikdash and we can bring our karbanos there. Samachti. Amazing thing. King David rejoiced when he heard this. He was so excited that people wanted the Beis Hamikdash. He was so excited that people, even those who were Rishaim, people who had negative things to say about King David, but they wanted this. They wanted the Beis Hamikdash. He saw the part of it that was positive. V'samachti amar le HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem says to him an amazing thing. One day in your chatzar, one day there was an empty courtyard. It was on top of the Har HaBayis. The Beis Hamikdash was not there. There was no temple there. There wasn't even something, I don't want to say negative things, but there wasn't even a different religion's temple there. There was nothing there. It was an empty chatzar. Nobody was serving Hashem there. All that there was, what was there? Your empty courtyard I prefer rather than 1,000. What's the 1,000? Says Hashem to King David, I prefer one day of your Torah learning in front of me more than 1,000 korbanos. There were 1,000 sacrifices that King Solomon brought when he dedicated the temple. Hashem says, those 1,000 sacrifices are beautiful. They are a sacrifice to me. They are an amazing offering. They're an amazing connection to me. But, says Hashem to King David, your one day of learning, your one moment of learning, one day of learning, is more precious to me than 1,000 sacrifices. So the fact that you haven't been able to build the Beis Hamikdash, don't think that you're missing something precious. Yes, you don't have the Beis Hamikdash, but you have something amazing, which is your Torah learning. And it's just interesting that in both of these midrashim, both the Gemara and the medrash, Hashem is saying to him, you have something amazing. I need every day of your life, as we saw in the medrash. I need every day of your life. In the medrash, it's talking about tzedakah and mishpat. It's talking about charity, and it's talking about justice. And the Gemara is talking about his Torah learning. And I want to understand, why in the Gemara does it refer to the Torah learning, and why in the medrash does it refer to the tzedakah and mishpat? And I was thinking that, the Gemara is speaking to the erudite, the Talmud Chacham, the person who has the ability to study the Talmud. So there's a certain depth that's required, a certain intellectual ability that's required to study the Torah, to study the Gemara. And the medrash is on a different level. The medrash is a lighter type of limud. It's also something that requires thought, requires a depth of understanding, a depth of, and an ability to decipher what the medrash is trying to say. But the medrash is really written for more of the Hamon Am, the regular people, not necessarily the intellectual people. And so the medrash, each of the midrashim is speaking about a different aspect. King David was somebody who is a neshama kailalas. He included everybody. His soul included all of the souls of the Jewish people. And so when Hashem is telling him that this aspect is precious, Hashem said both of these things really. But the Gemara is telling us one aspect of what Hashem said to King David, which was his Torah learning was precious. And the Medrash is telling us a different aspect, which pertains to those who learn the Medrash, and that is that charity and justice, those things are important, those things are significant and deeply important, deeply significant. We could ask ourselves, and this is really talking to us, King David lived 70 years without a Beis Hamikdash, his whole entire life. The pasuk says, the pasuk in Tehillim describes the fact that he promised he wouldn't allow his eyes any sleep, his body to rest, till he found that place of Hashem. He's looking for, where is Jerusalem? Where is that place? The Makam HaNivchar, the place that Hashem chooses. Until he found it. He was always looking for it his entire life. Hashem says to him, don't think that just because you don't have a Beis Hamikdash means you have nothing. Other way around. The Torah learning that you do, if you're an intellectual, if you're a scholar, or the tzedakah, the charity that you do, the justice that you pursue, if you're a regular person, don't think that that's not as significant, if not more significant, or equally significant. The medrash is saying it's even more significant than the sacrifices. So Hashem is telling a message to King David, but it's really a message for us as well. We are almost 70 years in Eretz Yisrael, having our own country, having our own nation in Eretz Yisrael, and it's slowly becoming more and more. The Jewish character is becoming stronger and stronger. The Torah is becoming stronger and stronger in the land of Israel. And so we can say to ourselves, well, where's the Beis Hamikdash? We don't have a temple. 70 years, we don't have a temple. It's almost 70 years. Next year will be 70 years since 1948. Where's our Beis HaMikdash? Where's our temple? And Hashem is telling us, if you have tzedakah, if you have charity, if you have mishpat, if you have justice, if you have batei dinim, if you have Torah, if you have the learning of the Torah, don't think that you haven't filled your life. Don't think that your life is not significant. Don't think that what you've accomplished is not significant. Yes, there's a beauty to a Beis HaMikdash. Yes, we're waiting for that moment. Yes, Samachti, King David rejoices when he hears that people want that. We're supposed to want a Beis HaMikdash, but let's think about, let's remember, and be machshiv, and pursue. Hashem is telling us we need to pursue, have a zechirin b'hem, be extremely careful about them. Tzedakah, charity, whether it's giving to people who need that money, or whether it's showing people the beauty of the Torah, as King David did, showing the beauty of justice, of the psak bestin, of the final decisions of a bestin, of a court. Whether it's the Torah that we get to learn, if we have that opportunity, if we have that intellectual capacity, recognize, Hashem should help us. I want to bless you and bless me back. Hashem should help us to recognize the beauty of what we have, to always desire, yes, as King David did, always desire the Beis HaMikdash, which hopefully will speedily be built in our days very soon. But recognize that we have an interim, which is an amazing opportunity for charity, of tzedakah, of pursuing justice, and of course of learning Torah each and every day of our lives. Hashem should help us to fill up all of the days of our lives with these amazing spiritual acquisitions. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful Shabbos. This podcast was made possible through the gracious donations of listeners like you. For more podcasts like this, please visit www.arigoldwag.com or search on iTunes Ari Goldwag.